Not much, child. Oh my gosh, I need another day off. Aside from that, not too much is going on. Actually, I've had a pretty decent day, so I probably shouldn't be complaining. What's
Well,
up
that
with you?
girl, the same thing. Wishing I had another day off, but duty calls, honey. And my son just got back this week,
Oh
so
yeah,
kind of getting back into mommy mode because he was gone over the holidays. So,
yeah.
child, I had a holiday too.
I bet you did. I swear though,
Yes.
I think it takes everybody a few weeks to kind of get back into the swing of things after the holidays because we got the back to back holidays, so I'm probably
Right.
just kind of still pushing through.
Right. And so, getting back into mommy mode, and then, when kids go off with their fathers for a few weeks,
Mhm.
depending on how much time the man spends with the child, they kind of let the kids do whatever, and so then mommy's left to pick up the pieces and to get whip them back into shape. And
Oh yeah.
then it was the holiday, so I'm pretty sure that he was up late,
Hmm.
just showing out.
Yep.
So
Hmm.
just kind of whipping him back into shape and readjusting to mommy mode, so to speak. So always a fun thing, fun.
I know how that is. Absolutely.
Yeah, but shout out to my baby. He made the honor roll, so that's always exciting.
That's dope. Really, really dope.
Yeah, honey. So that's about it. There's nothing too much going on. Just been kind of cruising around these YouTube streets, honey, and it's
Hmm.
been some interesting happenings over the last few days. So it's
Oh
just been
God.
pretty interesting.
And you know what? I'm so out of the loop because with my work schedule and working two jobs and handling all types of things in my personal life, I don't have as much time to be involved in or be abreast of what's going on YouTube. I will like peek in here and there, and whenever I can, if I catch somebody live, I'll jump in and make sure I try to give people views and likes and listen for a little bit. But child, I'm like so out of the loop.
Well, this is usually the time I kind of go into like a hibernation mode.
Oh, is it?
Um, yeah, because I'm usually in the house during the winter time, but the summer, honey, they have to
Ah.
when they can. So this is kind of the time I really get to tune in and see what's really what. But
Mhm.
summertime, honey, I got to go. I got
Okay, you out in them streets in the summer then, huh?
somebody keeps me busy, child.
Oh, okay. So not out in the streets. You just ain't sitting in the house.
No, not on this YouTube stuff. Not like that during the summer. I have a life, honey.
I feel you. I feel you. I feel you. But and like we make time for different things or whatever that interest us because like I spend a lot of time in my car, and that's typically when I can like kind of chime in and listen and stuff. But
Yeah.
I had also started listening to vloggers and other segments of YouTube, so I'll be trying to listen to their stuff, and I just try to share the wealth and listen where I can, and just like I said, listen in for a few minutes and give support, but not I don't
Are you still there? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. She'll probably have to come out and go back in. But what's going on, Chad? How y'all doing? How was y'all's weekend? We got DJ Mozzie Field, Naima, and my love in the chat so far. What's up, Ray Alexander? Hey, SW1. Hey, Leo Anthony. Hey, Third Ward Colombian. How y'all doing? Y'all doing good? Okay, she's got to come out and come back in. So we'll go back to the comments. Okay, Ray Alexander, you said you're looking forward to this topic. Yeah, we had gone in another direction initially, but we had thought about this topic and decided to roll with this. Uh-oh, what's
Sorry
going
about
on
that.
with
I
my
got a
mic?
phone
There
call.
she goes.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good now. You're
Okay.
good.
I got a phone call, but I declined it and I popped back on the screen, but I guess you couldn't hear me. I was trying to talk, but I guess you couldn't hear me.
Yeah.
But what
Okay.
were you saying about the topic?
I was saying that we had initially we had another topic that we were going to go into, but we ended up deciding on this one. And I think we kind of feel that this one will encompass the previous topic. So we just decided to say, hey, let's just try to go into this one and we'll go from there.
Absolutely, that's correct. So you want to go ahead and get into it?
Yes, 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 yes. So,
Well, absolutely. Go ahead.
um, the topic is, are Black men really honest about the type of women that they prefer?
Mm-hmm.
And when I was thinking about this, I had spoke to one of my homegirls, and she and I were really cool from Facebook. And I invited her to listen to one of the topics. And as much as I talk shit about being a pick me, um, I really wouldn't consider myself a pick me. And so when I was talking to her and she had listened to one of our broadcasts, she was like, "Well, sissy, you do come across as a pick me a little bit." And she was like, she and I would have conversations about what we thought men would prefer and the type of men that we see, excuse me, the type of women that we see these men choose. And so um, she had alluded to SKC and SKC's wife being on our her speaking in our on our chat and stuff. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and she was like, "Well, home concrete really handled it," but she was like, "Sissy, you just kind of let her run through." And so I thought about that and I was like, well, a lot of times what I've noticed in these spaces, people from certain areas don't like to come to other certain areas, or when they do, it's always an argument and always a fight. And so I was kind of looking at it like, um, in order to have a better understanding of each other, we have to allow each other to be heard and see things from their perspective, and also allow our own perspectives to be seen. And so that's kind of why I'm open to a lot of conversations with different people. So that was what it was for me. What about you?
Well,
What do you think of that?
well, to be completely honest, like the situation with SKC and his wife, I was much more open than I would have been even a year ago, to even like, a year ago when he would, first of all, I wouldn't have wanted to share a panel with him a year ago. And I would have lost my cool had he put his woman on the phone or his wife on the phone. So like I was much more open and much more receptive. I do understand where you're coming from regarding wanting people to be heard, but I feel like I do want people to be heard. However, and this is something that I noticed with like people in the chat and people questioning my ideologies, I want to say that I don't see anything wrong with people having a firm set of beliefs that they hold fast to, that they're unmoved when they hear other people's opinions. And that's how I feel about dating outside of the race. And as far as his wife goes, I don't personally have anything against her. I don't rock with people, outside of my core group. However, I don't personally have anything against her. My issue is with our men. However, as I said on that panel, I love all Black people. Don't get it twisted. But I do take issue with, the dating and mating outside of your race. And My stance on that is like not up for debate. It will not be shaken. It will not, like, there's nothing anybody can say that's going to make me change my opinion about that.
Right.
So, that's just my stance on it. But I felt like I was, kind of open, like I was really, was kind of teasing. It was funny. I took it all in stride and I didn't take any real offense to what he was doing. I mean, I know he a clown. He do that type of stuff. So I wasn't surprised by his antics, but I didn't, I don't feel like I reacted negatively towards it. I just, it is what it is regarding that. I expect that type of stuff from him.
Right, right, right. And then I thought about it too. I kind of be like, if you let people talk and let them get what they want to say out, and you try to understand it from your perspective, and we understand it from their perspective, then we can begin to really have conversations and really get down to some of the core issues. And
Mm-hmm.
then if it was, even though I don't feel like he was being malicious,
No,
I
no, no, no.
but I was thinking like, okay, and even if it was on something malicious, if you pay credence to what's malicious, you're still going to end up missing having the conversations that need to be had, because you're trying to check people for what they like, who they date, and their choices, and this, that, and the third, and you're still not going to get anywhere. So that was
So, and I do want to say, I don't think that there was any malicious intent behind his actions, but I
right,
do think that there can be that message can be dangerous. That one group is better than our core group. And me personally, I never believe in checking anyone personally for their own personal mating choices. But like I said, I stand firm in my belief that we belong together. So I don't
right,
care what, like I'm not gonna tell you, oh, you don't go date her and you shouldn't date her. I don't really care who you laying down with. I mean, you've made that choice. I'm not going to chastise you about that, but I still feel the way that I feel about it. But I don't, that's you. That's, I, whoever you share a bed with, you've already made that choice. In addition, I feel like stay over there. Don't come back. She felt like she was doing something and, oh, well, thanks for, whatever she said, whatever little slick comment she said. But sis, you're doing us a favor. I mean, he's like, he's a mess. You know the type of stuff he do. But and I tease him too, even though I strongly disagree with a lot of stuff that he says. And I like his message. He was joking and playing, but I've heard him say um some things that could be deemed as harmful to us as a people. And like a lot of the negative things that he says about us as a race, and he's always just trying to find ways to down us. And, oh, I went to this science fair and I didn't see one black family in the place, and he just goes out of his way to point out anything that could be deemed negative against black people. So, but whatever.
concrete, that they'll definitely say that. I went over here and I didn't see one black person. Like, well, damn.
I'm telling you, but then he'll be like, but I went to the Ponderosa and there was a fight and it was a whole huge herd of black water buffalo. They just do that. I mean, that's his shtick. So whatever.
Or them talking about how they go out to dinner and they didn't see any black people.
I'm telling you. Oh, I went to a concert and they'll pick the blackest place they can and try to act like there weren't any representations of black family in the place. And that's just not what I see personally. But I don't, put too much stock in what he says, because I know he is just, a buffoon.
So do you think they do? So do you think they do a lot of stuff trying to get our attention in that sense?
What I think is they will say any outlandish BS for likes and giggles. I think that they're trying to appeal to the crowd, like, and generally the crowd in the manosphere is males who are claim that, they're sick and tired of black women in their mess. So they will say anything to get the crowd going.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sometimes it does seem like it's a little bit of a ploy, to garner
Hmm.
views, because we coming to defend our shit. Like, look at
Hmm.
it, we ain't just this way, shit.
And that's like, I can have honest conversations regarding our fuckery, and regarding the fact that we need to be held, or we need to be accountable for our actions. But what I can't do is the whole pile on thing. Like, everybody just dogging out black women, and everybody's had horrible experience with every black woman they've ever come into contact with, and they don't believe there's a feminine black woman left in the world. And I just like, okay, come on now, y'all going too far. That's when I come in and start defending. If we can have honest conversations and say, yeah, some black women with some messed up attitudes, but you know what? There are some good sisters out here too. I'm like, you know what? You are absolutely right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, what do you think of the topic today?
Sis, this topic though, like, I think that the topic is very fitting for what, a lot of what I see in this space. I don't know that black men are being honest about the type of women that they prefer. I like, you want to chastise women for being sluts, for embodying these no morals, and these new ideologies that Meg the Stallion and Cardi B sing about. However, these are the type of women that appear to be being wifed up. Like, how can I teach young black women that doing these types of things are absolutely horrible and they're deplorable? Being ratchet and having ratchet behavior is, not a good thing. But we have flocks of men that are frequenting strip clubs and doing different things like that. So I think that their actions don't necessarily align with their words.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because men say they prefer one thing, but they seem to lust after a certain, they lust. Now, maybe who they, well, because initially I was gonna say, okay, well, they're not marrying the Instagram types in droves,
Hmm.
but then at the same token,
They ain't marrying the wholesome women in droves either, though.
yeah, that's true. That's very, very true. That's
You
very,
know,
very true. So, what are some types of women that would you say are preferred, but they don't really talk about?
well, I'm gonna say, okay, I'll touch on that, and I also want to say, black men are making certain to hold our feet to the fire regarding our choices, and a primary, one of the main ones would be the choice to choose a person that you end up, not marrying, or who you're not married to, that you have a child with, and they should be held to the fire regarding their choices too. Like, they make screwed up choices too. Like, they're
Ooh.
not necessarily choosing the right type of women either. And I'm sorry, what was your question? Because I wanted to address that too.
I was saying, like, when they say certain types of women that they don't prefer, but then we see them doing or dating and marrying the exact opposite, what types of women would you say that those were?
I would say the first thing that comes to mind when I think about that would be um, these women who say, and I say this because I know few personally. They are sexual. They're sexually uninhibited, but they say they're free spirits. So men talk about women sleeping with multiple men and being down for whatever, and being too easy and things of that nature. But I see some of these same types of women who have their pick of men, who men don't mind spending their money on, don't mind tricking on, or don't mind dating them if if they're single with children and things of that nature. And that's the other one. Even men who say, oh, you shouldn't date single mothers. I think that there's a caveat to that. You shouldn't date unattractive single mothers, or you shouldn't date overweight single mothers. But if you a single mother and you got a fatty, and or you're desirable, then they don't care about your baggage. You know.
That's very, very true. That's very, very true. Then, because I was thinking about it too. They say they don't like hoes. They say they don't like big women. They say they
Mhm.
don't like single mothers.
Mhm.
Um, I actually think that that is all some BS in a certain sense because I have seen literally examples of these same type of women that they say they don't prefer getting married,
Hmm.
getting tricked on, getting nice things. They're buying cars. They're doing a whole lot that this sector seems to preach against, and so I
Hmm.
found that to be very interesting because I'm like, y'all say y'all don't prefer these things, but we see exactly who y'all go after, but then they'll come back and say, okay, well, dick and attention is very, very different than me actually marrying a woman and making a woman my wife. And so, what do you think about that?
Personally, I think that black men aren't marrying like that, and it's not just black men. Like we continue to, I mean, like that's who we're concerned with. But marriage has declined across the board, so they're not really marrying like that to that degree. So I like even if we just say they're getting in relationships with and or willing to splurge their resources on and or so I think that if these women, if that's what they desired or if that was the standard that they set forth, that only way that I'm going to get with you is if you marry me, then they would do it. I think that people, a lot of women don't necessarily care that much about marriage and or they're not pushing that agenda in today's time. So I, even though they're not marrying them, I think that it's more than penis and attention. I
Okay.
think they like to downplay it and make it sound like that's all it is.
So you think it's more than just penis and attention and lust?
Mhm. Yeah, I think that yeah, it's more than that. It's and what I think is happening is a lot of what these men are complaining about, they are complaining about a certain segment. So a certain segment that has rejected them, like maybe they were trying to date out of their league, and
Ooh.
you know as a result they were rejected, and they want to take that out on all black women. Or let's say they were attracted to a certain woman, and she was fine and all the other guys were attracted to her too, so she turned, said, I'm not even going to say incel, but said guy down. And later on she became a baby mama, and then she was willing to entertain him. I think that they're so upset about her turning them down, that they're looking at anything that they can consider a flaw of hers and applying it to like the whole group and saying, oh, these baby mamas just wanna, which I think that it's just the certain type of chick that you were attracted to, that you prefer, that passed you over, happens to be a baby mama. So now they have this angst towards all women that are baby mamas.
So let me ask you a question. Do you think that the submissiveness of a woman, does the submissiveness of a woman go into that? Like, do you feel that they would turn down a submissive woman no matter, like, if a woman is a baby mama, but she's very submissive, she's willing to listen, she's willing to cooperate. Do you think they turn down those kinds of women?
Well, to be completely honest, I think that those type of women, okay, so I'm just gonna say like those type of women are maybe more average looking
Mhm.
than a top tier woman. So I think that they would. Okay, so there's a couple things that I think about that. So I think that they would. So if they had an attractive woman that was beautiful, she's a baby mama, but she's submissive, would they still date her even though she has, children from and she wasn't married? And I think that yes, they would. But I also think that a lot of these men, and I'm assuming that they don't behave in the same manner in which they do online in their real lives, because I think that they would be repulsive. I think that women would be repulsed by their behavior and would be like extremely turned off and couldn't get past their horrible character to even see if they would be interested in them in any of, romantically.
Okay. So would you say that the guys in this space, it's kind of a farce? Um, because I think about what I kind of how I believe it is. Guys say one thing on the internet,
Mm-hmm.
guys do another thing in person. Because I'm sure if a bad chick was everything that they looked for in a woman, she was submissive, she was pretty,
Mm-hmm.
um, she was willing to cooperate, but she was a single mother, I think they'd still go. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah. Oh yeah, I do too.
But
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. I said the same, essentially the same thing. If she was attractive, but she has children, and yeah, they would still definitely date her. If she, yeah, absolutely.
yeah, I was gonna also say, they talk a lot about submission and cooperation,
Mm-hmm.
but I kind of look at the Latinas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when they talk about the attitudes, and well, I would say that the attitudes in submission and cooperation are different. But when they say Black women have attitudes, but we're not submissive,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Do you think that there's a difference? Like, Latinas can have an attitude, but do you think that they're more submissive?
Yes, I think that Latinas are like, I think that it's cultural for Latinas to, um, fix their man's plate, make sure his laundry is clean, do all the domestic things. But I think their culture is completely different than ours. I think they're raised to do those things, so that's almost like second nature. They may be fussing at you and doing their, thing, but they're still going to do all of the things, around the house that need to be done. Whereas, it may be different for us. So yeah, I do think that that's a key point.
Okay. And
But
what do you
go ahead.
go ahead? Okay. I was going to ask, okay, even with bigger women, a lot of men talk about how they don't date overweight women, they hate obese women.
Hmm.
Um, but if a woman has a nice hip to ass ratio, they're
Yep.
definitely going. And so she can be obese, she can be a big girl, but if she has a nice hip to ass ratio,
Hmm.
a lot of those standards go out the window. But I honestly don't feel like they're being honest about that.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I've personally seen on Obsidian's channel where, they talk about, water buffalo and all these different names that they give, obese women. And they'll post pictures of women who are clearly, have a higher than healthy BMI, but they're shapely. So I think, yeah, absolutely, that does make a difference. And I do think that, yeah, we men are stunting on the internet. I think that it's plausible that they are, you know they're stunting on the internet. um and I think that, in their real lives, it's I would be shocked to see if, and I'm thinking of the extreme examples, Keith and some of the others who are just extremely extreme. Even some of the stuff that Obsidian says, like, I can't believe that you would say something like that. One, in front of your partner, two, to your partner, or to women that claim that you love and respect. So I think a lot of it is for show.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, like, if these women were to approach them and was nice or whatever, I feel like they would actually take the time out to consider. But then another thing that kind of makes me worry too. In one sense, I
Mhm.
feel like that. Then in another sense, with certain movements growing, like with the SYSBM growing, with the MGTOW sector of men growing, with those types of men and those type of sectors that are growing, um, do you think that the threat of them leaving Black women is a real thing? Do you really think that they're going to go anywhere?
I do think that the threat is a real thing, but I don't think most Black women think that it's a real thing. And I do want to just give this really quick example. And I know that this is anecdotal, but I'm going to give it anyways because on this channel we talk about our personal experiences. That's what most of us glean from, and we don't just talk about things on a macroscopic level. So I have a friend who is a single mother,
Hmm.
and she has one child, and she her child was born out of wedlock, and she is um technically she's plus size, but she's extremely shapely, smaller waist, like really deep arch in her back and like crazy big booty. And she's red and she's a beautiful girl. She and a lot of the only kind of men that she dates are what would be like men that you would see in this sector. She likes very intelligent, like nerdy guys. And she does not cook. She is not clean. She's like all the things that men say they would not date. And she's open about the fact, like she'll date like nerdy guys, but she's like not leading them on, and they still just want to be in her presence, want to be around her, want to spend their money on her and things of that nature. So, and I know she's not the only woman like that out there. So I do think that if you are attractive, if you are, desirous, if you, are shapely, and, I think that they will make a lot of concessions about all of your baggage. I just wanted to say that. I think they'll make concessions.
I absolutely agree because I kind of feel, well, no, I'm not, and it's not even kind of, I feel like the more attractive a woman is, the more she's able to get away with. And so I feel like a lot of men in this sector deny that. Um, the woman can have an attitude, she can be loud, she can be
Yeah, it's called
bratty.
pretty girl privilege, is what it's called. Yeah.
Right, right,
That's
right.
a
Absolutely.
benefit of pretty girl privilege. You can get away with a lot more. You can do certain things that you wouldn't otherwise be able to. And even how like the primary complaint is the Black woman's attitude. However, they are highlighting Latinas as a second, as a choice over Black women, and dismissing the fact that they have an attitude because of whatever other thing that they're attracted to about them. Okay, they're more domestic. You know what I mean? I wouldn't necessarily could say that they're more feminine. Domestication is domestic skills are a trait of femininity, but I just don't like to want to make a blanket statement like that. But I think that if you're what they consider to be attractive, then your bad traits don't matter as much.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I don't really feel like they matter as much. Um, a lot of our guys, like I said, it's one thing to say. I do feel like SYSBM, MGTOW, and those
Hmm.
kind of guys, I do feel like that is a plausible threat.
Hmm.
I'm kind of curious to see how it's going to turn out in the end. But
I
with
think that we've never had a time in my life where I've never had a time in my life, and if there has been a time I wasn't aware of it, where men were so vocal about their
yeah,
um, disdain for Black women, about their disappointment in Black women. And not only are they talking about that, because I think, yeah, vocalize those things, but they are highlighting how other Black men, Black boys, young Black males that are being brought up should consider other choices. And I think that is something that we should be pay close attention to, because the numbers are already increasing. By numbers, I mean the men that are dating outside of the race, men that are marrying outside of the race, and they're starting movements surrounding these very ideas when they were doing the same things. They were already dating outside of the race before there was ever movements and at national on a national level, international level, because we talk to people, in the UK and Africa and all different types of places where there's like mass movements of black males that are saying, hey, enough is enough. We need to consider other options. And I don't want to call what they're doing dangerous, but it can have a dangerous effect on the community as we've known it.
Hmm. When I was talking to my homegirl and we were talking about SYSBM, and we talked about well, it was basically SYSBM. Um, she alluded to a point to say that these men wanted to date interracially anyway, but they wanted to put a name on it. They wanted it to be a
Mhm.
bigger movement with it. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't want to. Okay, so last week in our topic, I said that in part, I was partly being facetious. I do think that a, there's a number of black men who just aren't attracted to black women, and I don't like to pull this card, but I do think that it's tied to their own personal experiences, even those with the women that they were raised by, or maybe they were abandoned and weren't raised by the person who birthed them. But I think that part of it is tied to that, but part of it may be tied to some other things too. I do think that there's a certain segment of the population, but I don't think that that's all black men. And I think that it's unfair for us to, kind of label them with that, because if we do that, then like we're basically saying they don't have legitimate gripes about the stuff that they're complaining about. And I do think that they have
They actually
legitimate
do.
gripes. I,
Right.
you know,
Right. They do. They really do.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. We're
So,
getting ready
okay,
to
let me ask
open
you
up.
a question. Let me ask you a question, Danny.
Okay.
So, being that we agree that they have legitimate gripes, what would be a different or better or another way in which they could um, get the attention of black women in order for changes to be made, aside from leaving the race?
Mm. Um, to be honest with you, I've thought about this, and I've actually thought about this for a while now. When I started to notice the movements happening, and initially, I didn't want to take what they were saying seriously because I know the type of woman I am. But then again, I am a single mother,
Mhm.
so that does put a certain strike against me within their sector, right? Um, but like I said, I thought about this a lot. There has to be a way for them to demand their respect.
Mhm.
Uh, but if you're in a house with a woman and this woman is not respecting you, and every type of woman that you approach doesn't have a certain type of respect for you, doesn't cater to you, isn't really on your program, then I wouldn't tell you to stay in that relationship. Just like I wouldn't tell any woman to stay in an abusive relationship or in a hostile environment as far as her relationship is concerned. So then I thought about the solution. Okay, so what would I tell? Uh, a respect thing goes a long way. And if they're not feeling like they're getting the respect from the women, their own women, and they see that these men, that other races of men are seemingly getting the respect that they would want from their women, then my whole thing is if you feel like you can't get what you want to out of your own race of women, do what you have to do. But the caveat to that, you if you didn't get I'm not even going to say if you didn't get the respect from our women that these women are going to respect you, but that is a thing to worry about because all women can smell a certain we can smell insecurity. We know when you're awkward. We know when you're not manly. We know if you're not a dominant male. And I don't feel like a lot of men pay credence to the dominant male. Most women want a man that dominates in a certain sense. I'm not talking about abuse, but I feel like most women want to be able to submit to their men. But with the case of Black women, um, I'm not going to necessarily say we don't want to submit, but we have to be able to trust to submit. And with a lot of us being hurt and disgruntled, we don't trust the men to submit. So it's going to be a little competition when it comes down to it. So I don't really know that there's a solution. I feel like I don't know if there's another solution besides the men leaving to get their respect. I don't know if there's another solution. What do you think about that?
Well, I asked the question and I had not given it much thought myself, but I do want to say this. This is something I have to think about. I don't want to just throw an answer out there. Possibly before the show ends, I'll be able to formulate an answer. But one thing I do want to say is one thing that I know is that I don't think that the answer is begging for a seat at someone else's table. I don't think that leaving your community for someone else's community is the answer. I think, and I have to, like I said, I'm going to think about it some more, but I think that the answer should be you build it and you make them come to you. You know, you build your community. You build, like, I would prefer men saying, I would prefer men doing what what's the guy that's on he always has some outlandish stuff to say, and he's Ramil. I would prefer that men do what Ramil has suggested and say, we are going to focus on building for 10 years. We are not messing with the sisters. We are focusing on, you know, the things that men need to focus on in order to but my reasoning would be for them to build up their community, focus on themselves, to focus on self-improvement. And, you know, I know that they have needs and their needs will need to be met, but I think that that's a better option than saying, I'm going to go to another community because my community is failing. To be completely honest, and I know this is way off topic, but I agree with certain things that Trump I agree with Trump's stance on certain things, and part of his stance on immigration, and I'm not going to go into what part, but I think for me, I don't believe that you leave your community, you forsake your community in order to go where you think it's better. I think you stand up, you fight the government, you fight whatever powers may be, so that in order for your community to be repaired, or in order for your community to be where it needs to be, as opposed to risking your life going somewhere that you know nothing about, to possibly worse conditions, and, you know, in order, because you think things might potentially be better over there. To me, I'm a firm believer in fighting for, you know, fighting for, you know, your community to be restored. And that's kind of the stance that's kind of my thinking regarding this topic, that men should, you know, if that means forsake Black women for 5 years, 10 years, while they're building and focusing and, you know, getting themselves together and getting themselves right. And that does not mean, I understand that does not mean once they get themselves together and they've built up their community in the way in which they feel it should be, that they're going to open the floodgates and let all Black women in. I understand that. And that's a risk that would have to be taken. I would hope that they would be like, okay, well, the Quality Sisters who was holding it down, and or even if they said, you know, we're not, you know, we're going to date non-ADOS Black women or whatever it might be. I just don't think that it should be going and asking for a seat at someone else's table, personally.
Okay, but now they would say the argument is we're not going to ask for a seat at someone else's table per se. We're going to build with non-ADOS women. And so being that we're still, a lot of them say they're still looking for Black women, but these Black women are going to be from different areas. They're going to be from other countries and whatnot. But they're still saying that they're going to build with non-ADOS women.
Mhm.
um, but they would still be building a community. These
Um,
communities would still be
where are you
Black.
going to take those non-ADOS women? You don't have a community. If you're saying screw the Black community, I'm leaving the Black community. Where are you going to? You go find someone from another country and you bring them to what community? Your focus should be to build the community, and then you bring in your women.
Well, from what I've been hearing, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, they're saying that they're building, but they're going to build with these non-ADOS women. They're starting their own communities. They're going to have babies. They're going to build with
I think
like-minded.
I think that is just I think that that's them being idealistic. I mean, I would like to see where just even one of these thriving communities exists today in the U.S. As an example, if they're doing it currently, they should be able to point out where one is. There's a thriving community over here where we're doing it. Yeah, and I just think that that's just a lot of idealism. But I not I can't knock them for saying, let me tell you something. Men in this space are a lot of times they have, tunnel vision, and they are extremely judgmental. They categorize everybody, and you're in this category and you're in this category. I'm going to say something. My fiance he has been for majority of his life a conscious Black man, right? He's a conscious Black man who's tired of Black women's bullshit. He is tired, and I hear him gripe and complain. Like, even conscious brothers are saying sisters are screwing up, and they tired, and they understand. And he has friends who have, married Ghanaian women, and like, conscious men are tired of sisters. They saying sisters need to get their stuff together and get their stuff together. Not all of them are caping for Black women and saying, oh, but the Black woman is God no matter what she does, despite all her flaws. They tired too. And if you can see conscious men, especially from what we know, how we've defined conscious men in our community, and the idea that we have of conscious Black men and how they uphold Black women and their BS, when you start seeing them getting tired, I mean, sis, we gotta check ourselves. We gotta do better. You know what I mean? So I don't have an issue with men saying we tired, and as a result, we're gonna do something else. I just don't think that something else should be, going to another community asking for a seat at the table or hoping to get a seat at the table. And when I say that, I'm not necessarily talking about those that are marrying the non-ADOS Black women, because in my mind, if you're marrying a non-ADOS Black woman and you bringing her here, you're more than likely you're going to be bringing her to a Black community.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. So, but now to their defense, if it's coming from all sectors of men, if it's coming from the educated lanes, if it's coming from the conscious community as well, that our women are the problem,
Mm-hmm.
and that these men do prefer feminine women, um, I think that they'll accept a feminine woman over. Um, do you think that they'll accept a less attractive feminine woman over a pretty bitch?
Ooh, that's a good question. That is a good question. And the other part that I would add to that, would you accept a feminine woman who has everything else that you want, but she either has a child, is either overweight, is less attractive than, the eights or nines, like those things, those are real questions that should be asked. And that does not mean that there's an expectation that men should have to sacrifice anything that they want, but in reality, most of the time we all do, to some degree. But some certain things are non-negotiable for people. So if a man is saying, yeah, I'm willing to sacrifice some, she don't got to be an 8, but I'll take a 6.5, but she can't have no kids, whatever it is. But what are you willing to give up to get what you want? Or are you not willing to give up anything and just saying, I'm gonna go over there and find the best possible option, but over there?
Yeah, because I'm kind of seeing, like I said, the more attractive a woman, bitchier she can be.
Mhm.
Um, but the fours, five, and sixes tend to be more humble, in my opinion, and
Mm,
uh they do tend to. I'm not gonna say that they're more feminine or less feminine because I think feminine kind of comes in all shapes, sizes, whatever.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. But I'm getting
But
ready
you
to.
know what? And I'll let you open. I know you're ready to open, and I am too. I do have to say this. I consider myself to be maybe slightly above average looking woman. But I've seen and I hear men in these spaces. I've heard men have conversations where they are basically admitting that they're willing to accept, you know, less than what they desire if the woman is attractive enough. Like, you know, excuse me, that isn't even we're not stretching by saying that. Like, if you listen to some of the conversations and even like how the men are fawning over, maybe if we're talking about an Amber Rose, I hear Amber Rose given as an example for a lot of stuff in this space, and I'm looking like, really? Excuse me, I'm sorry, my mouth is dry, but I also hear Kim Kardashian being given, and she has some of the same traits that these men will frown upon when it comes to sisters. Like, if you are appealing to them, they're willing to look past a lot of other stuff. And it's just, it is what it is. But go ahead and open it up.
Okay, well, we have our lovely, excuse me, not lovely because he's not a lovely man, but
Oh, God. Not the Roger report.
we have the excellent Roger Report on, who has the second best show on YouTube. I need to mod Roger up so
Say
he can
that.
drop his link. But Roger, what's going on, man?
Uh, man, interesting.